Hello. I'm sorry that I'm doing this September wrap-up video so late. I had some family in town, so the amount of time I spent getting ready for the family to arrive, and then the amount of time I spent with them while they were here, it really kind of cut into my physical book reading time. In this video, I'm going to just go ahead and do some quick reviews. If you're interested in hearing a little bit more in depth about what I think of books when I read them, I do vlog videos where I show my pets and a little bit of my life sometimes here and there, and I talk a little bit more in depth about what I think of each of the books that I read. The first book that I want to talk to you about is The Handmaid by Frieda McFadden. This book is about a woman who has just got out of prison and she needs to get a job, and she ends up going to work as a housemaid for a couple with a daughter. All kinds of drama ensues. I don't want to give anything away, but there were some surprising twists in the book. I thought it was very entertaining. I'm looking forward to listening. I listened to this one. Or no, I didn't. I read it. I'm looking forward to reading the second book, and I give this one 4 stars. Then I read Summer Rental by Rektok Ross. This one is about a group of teenagers who have just graduated. They go off to spend, I think it's a week in Florida for like a spring break, but in the summer, so that they can have fun before they all go on with their lives away from high school. And there's a killer on the loose, and I thought it was good. It was entertaining. It was a little predictable here and there. And if you don't like unlikable characters, maybe avoid this one, because I don't think I liked any of the characters. Now, I typically don't care about that, but just so you know, in case that's something that you're irritated by, I did give this one 4 stars as well. I have been reading the Dune series with my friend Kristin, and I've been trying to get through the 4th book for months, and I finally decided at the beginning of September to just call it quits. I really enjoyed the first 3 books, so if I were to ever read it again, I would just read these 3. That would be my personal recommendation. It just fell off for me in the 4th book, and it really felt like that should be a whole different series. Maybe I would have enjoyed it more. I started to read We Sold Our Souls by Grady Hendrix, and I just don't enjoy reading about bands. I don't know why. I just don't. And to the point where I don't know that I'm going to read Daisy Jones and the Six now, because I just couldn't get into this. I just found it very eye-rolling, the constant, we're so cool with all these riffs, and it's just not my thing. So I did end up DNFing it about halfway through, I would say. And, page 138. So a little less than halfway through. Book Eaters. I can't remember who wrote this, but I'll put a picture of it up here. This one, the premise sounded so good. It's about well, they're not really people, they're humanoid, and they eat books, and they remember everything in the book when they read it, so they're very educated. But there's a lot of bouncing around with different time frames. There's now, there's then, and then there's the childhood. But the way that it's written, at least listening to it, I could not differentiate between then and now. It was too similar, and there just wasn't enough to separate the two. So I kept wanting to know what was going on and not understanding it. I don't know if I read it physically, if it would have changed the way I felt, but I just didn't enjoy it as much as I thought that I would. So I give that one 2 stars. My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry by Fredrik Backman, the beloved Fredrik Backman. This is my first Fredrik Backman book, and in this one we follow Elsa. Elsa is a 7-year-old girl who is going through the grief of losing her grandmother. She kind of reminds me of Ramona Quimby a lot, which I really enjoyed. But then there's also this where the wild things are fantasy side to the book. And it's constantly bouncing between the two to the point where it made me a little bit dizzy between real life and fantasy. And I was really, not that I don't like fantasy books, but I was really only interested in real life for her. I didn't really want to read about all the fantasy stuff. I did enjoy his writing though, and I think that I will definitely read more of his books in the future. It did make me want to read, what is her name? Britta Marie. There is a book about a character in her, Britta Marie. I think I really do want to read that one. But I did end up giving this one 2 stars. The Accidental Honeymoon by Portia Macintosh. This one is about a woman who lives in America but is from the UK, and she is going home for a wedding. It's her cousin's wedding, and her fiance are going to be flying to Vegas, staying the night, and then flying to the UK from Vegas. Well, she ends up breaking up with her fiance right before she leaves, like the day that they're leaving or the night before. And I'm not giving away a whole lot. All this happens in the first chapter or two. So she goes without him, meets this guy that's I think a blackjack dealer that she really is having fun talking to and getting along with. And then she wakes up the next morning married to him. And fake relationship is the prompt on this one. So long story short, he goes with her, pretends to be the fiance that she broke up with, and the rest goes from there. I thought this book was so fun. I enjoyed it. I laughed multiple times. The only thing I didn't really 100% love about it was the ending. It just felt a little bit rushed, and I wanted more. I even spent a while trying to find out if there was another book after this, and there wasn't. But I do really love romance books in the fall. To me, it's the most romantic time of the year. And I am hoping to listen to more books by this author before fall is over. Did I mention I gave this one 4 stars? Then I listened to The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. That was a great book to listen to in September, right before the Halloween season starts. I loved the characters in this book. I especially got attached to Father Karras. I could definitely see myself reading it again one day. I want to get a physical copy so that I can read it again and annotate it. I gave it 5 stars. I just thought it was wonderful. And there's so much that the movie left out that was in the book, as per usual, right? Chad Nichols sent me a Kindle version of his newest book, The Animal. And this is a slasher book about a group of teenagers who goes to this house that's in this neighborhood where complete pandemonium took place 25 years earlier. And it's on the anniversary. This animal, they never figured out what or who it was, 25 years earlier killed 17 people in one night. And so they go to this house and they're telling this new girl in town about what had happened. And, well, they start also being attacked. And so throughout the book, we're trying to figure out, is it the same animal as the one from 25 years ago? Who was the animal? Was it an actual animal or a person or a supernatural being? What was it? What happened? I just really loved this book. It was just over 500 pages long. And I had a heck of a time putting it down. It gave me insomnia multiple nights to where I kept saying just one more chapter, and 6 chapters later I was still reading. I even kept telling my husband how in love with this book I was and how excited I was about this book. The writing was just so fresh and original. It didn't feel like there was a lot of fluff in it. And I feel like so often if a book's over 500 pages, there's endless amounts of fluff. And this one did not. It was just really well written. It was really exciting and interesting, and the ending was just amazing. I loved it. It is pretty gory at times, but it is a slasher book. So I give it 5 stars, and I loved this book so much that I afterwards bought a copy. It's supposed to be here sometime today. I wish it was here already so I could show you, because it's very beautiful, the artwork in it. But that's how much I loved it. I want to reread it and annotate it and read it again and again. Oh, and I should probably also tell you, I'll put a link down in the description box. The author is offering, I think it's the first chapter for free if you want to read it before you buy it, just to make sure you're into that style of writing. But I definitely recommend doing that. Then I read The Tenant by Katrine Engberg, and this was her debut novel. It's about 2 detectives, although one of the detectives is really the protagonist, trying to solve a murder that happens in an apartment building. And there's a killer who is going after other people, so they really feel like they have to solve this crime. I found the writing to be very scintillating, and I really enjoyed the old man that was the protagonist detective in this book. And I don't typically care for detective books, but lately I feel like maybe I do again. I'm starting to really kind of lean in that direction, or enjoy books about detectives again when I hadn't for years. I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was a very exciting read. And I also found out there's, I think, 3 other books that come after this, and one of them is being made into a movie. I can't wait to read the other ones, and all from a book I found at the Dollar Tree. Every once in a while this happens, right? I'm sorry, here's some of my notes, but isn't this a cool looking book? I think it's so neat, and yeah, I'm excited that I found a new author from it. I gave this one 4 stars. Great Alone by Kristin Hannah. As you see, I did some annotating on this one. I love this book. I was not expecting to love it. It's about a girl named Lenny whose dad is a Vietnam vet, and he wants to get away from civilization. So he decides that he's going to move the family up to Alaska, to this remote island, and live off the land. And it's just not really my thing, right? I'm kind of a city girl. Reading about living off the land was actually very refreshing and interesting. I feel a little bit of comfort after reading it that if I had to, I could probably do it. I don't want to do it. I like living a mile from my grocery store and having all these amenities and luxuries right near my home. The protagonist is a survivor. She's got a real survivor mentality. She wants to learn from things and move on. I feel like so many books in the last 10, 15 years really have like a victim-centered rhetoric, and that's not really how I like to look at things. I don't mind thinking about how much something sucks, but then I want to move on and like become stronger and learn from it. And I just found it so refreshing to read a book where the protagonist is that way also. This book made me cry 3 times. 3 times. I never cry in books. I cry when I watch Hallmark commercials, but I do not cry when I read books. And if I do, it's once. I cried 3 times. I could not believe it. And I dropped the book one time. I was so shocked when something happened that I did. I dropped the book, and then I had to tell Olive all about what just happened. She's sleeping right behind you over here on the couch, so she doesn't know that I'm talking about her. But oh my gosh, it was just an amazing book. It also talks a lot about having an abusive parent and really having to tiptoe on eggshells to keep them from getting angry and to try to please them and try to make them happy. I thought the author did a really good job talking about that and how much it can affect a kid's life. And the other thing about this book, it really highlights that no matter how crappy your situation is, you can always look around and find something to be grateful for, which can really help a person to be more joyful and happy. And I loved it. I thought it was so good. If you haven't read it, I think you should. I think everybody should read this book. I thought it was that good. So obviously this is a 5-star read for me. You're going to laugh. This was a 5-star read as well, is The Wrong Number 2 by R.L. Stine. I just love R.L. Stine books. They're just such a good palate cleanser. They help me get all the excess from books that I have read and start the book after this with a very fresh, clean slate. And I just love that. For this style of writing and what it is definitely a 5-star book. It is the second book after Wrong Number Part 1, and I just loved it. And it wrapped up some things that the first Wrong Number didn't wrap up. I'm assuming R.L. Stine knew that he was going to write a second book after this when he wrote the first one, but I really enjoyed it. I read it in an afternoon, and I definitely recommend it if you're looking for, well, read the first one first, but if you're looking for some fun, quick reads to get into the Halloween spooky season, I read The Coworker by Frieda McFadden. All the characters were unlikable, but in a bad way. Not an, oh, I love that bitch, kind of way, but like a, who is this? There's nothing to get attached to. I think that's what makes an unlikable character okay for me, is if I can still get attached to them or appreciate why they're unlikable, understand where they're coming from. But I just found this book to be so dramatic and over the top and unrealistic, and yeah, I didn't get on with it the way that I thought I would. It was a 2-star read for me. It really fell flat. And then the last book I want to talk to you about was The Younger Wife by Sally Hepworth. This one also is about abuse and how we recognize it, what we do about it. Do we even always see it? And this one, there's 2 sisters, Tully and Rachel, who find out that their dad is divorcing their mother, who has dementia and is in a memory care center. And he's getting remarried to a woman named Heather, who's younger than them. You can imagine how that one goes. I really enjoyed it, though. And one of the things I loved about this book was the sisters and their relationship, the relationship they had with their mother, the relationship that they have with their stepmother, and the relationship that their stepmother has with them and their mom. There's something about that female relationship dynamic that I found very appealing and refreshing and uplifting. I thought it was a very beautiful book. I really enjoyed it, and I give this one 4 stars. Those are all the books that I read in September. I do have a huge book haul coming out soon. Be sure to keep your eyes out for that, especially if you're looking for ideas on books that might be older or out of print to read. I got a lot of used books, and I think a lot of us are at a point where we're looking for books that maybe aren't the popular TikTok read or something, and maybe not the book that everybody's talking about, but something different, something maybe that feels original, something outside of the little box that we all find ourselves in these days, Let me know if you read any of these books or if you want to. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or night. Happy reading. Bye.